So let's talk a little bit about Aristotle. Aristotle, you may have come across in other fields, very prolific when it came to topics about politics, about justice, about philosophy, wrote a lot about science as well. And we're going to give Aristotle a little bit of a hard time in this course because a lot of the things he wrote about science were incorrect. And not just was, so Aristotle was the wrong combination of being incorrect, but also being very prolific and influential. And so Aristotle's ideas led a lot of thinkers, even hundreds, thousands of years later, to go down the wrong path by following his basic preconceptions about science, which led to incorrect interpretations. But let's sort of go through Aristotle's worldview to understand what he thought and why he thought what he did. According to Aristotle, there are basically 5 elements that make up all of reality: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. The first 4 on earth, so earth, air, fire, water, soil, air, fire, water. And then ether is the thing that's in the heavens. And, from that division, you can immediately see the earth, the thing we interact with on a daily basis, is distinct from the heavens. There are 2 different things. There are the elements that are on earth, air, fire, and water, and then there are elements that are in the ether that are in the heavens. I'm going to be a little careful here with the capitalization here. Lowercase e earth means the element. Capital E earth means our world. But earth, the element, according to Aristotle, always finds the center. It always sinks towards the center. And so just naturally, once you make that assumption, Earth, our planet, must be at the center of everything, because Earth sinks towards the center. Wherever we see Earth, we must be the center of the universe. And you naturally come to the conclusion there can't be multiple worlds. Where do we find life in the universe? Well, only on Earth, because the only place there is Earth, the element, is in the center of the universe, which is where we are, and you can't have a second world somewhere else because Earth only occurs in the center of the universe. So again, a preconceived notion leads to this very bad conclusion. All right, so let's come back to retrograde motion. So I'm going to skip ahead to the correct answer. We'll go into a little bit more about historically where this came from in the next lecture. But the correct answer is Earth. The sun does not orbit the Earth. Earth orbits the sun. Mars orbits the sun. So both Earth and Mars are orbiting the sun. They're going in the same direction. Earth is going a little bit faster. It's constantly catching up to and overtaking Mars. And that motion, that orbital motion, explains the apparent retrograde motion we see in the sky. So let's go through this a little bit slowly here. So there are 7 positions here of Earth and Mars marked on this diagram here. So when Earth is here, Mars is here. When Earth is here, Mars is here. When Earth is here, Mars is here, and so on. So Earth is, again, orbiting a little bit faster than Mars does. And next lecture, we'll talk about why that is. But for now, just imagine you're on Earth and you're looking at the position of Mars with respect to these background stars, these stars you see in the night sky, and in particular, the constellations of Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. So at position 1, you draw a line from Earth to Mars, and you see that Mars is in the constellation of Gemini. At point 2, a few weeks later, you again draw your line from Earth to Mars. Mars now has moved well past Gemini and is, moving past Cancer as well. Point 3, draw a line from Earth to Mars to the stars, and now Mars in the direction of Leo. Point 4, Mars is now going backwards. Mars had gone from Gemini to Cancer to Leo, but now by point 4, Mars has turned around and is going backwards towards Cancer again. By point 5, it's almost all the way back to Cancer. And then by point 6, it turns around one more time and starts moving eastward again into Leo, and then further into Leo at point 7. So again, this is just geometry. You just draw a line from Earth to Mars to the stars, and you see that Mars appears to move west to east, turns around, starts moving towards the west, turns around again, starts moving towards the east. So very important for a so-called heliocentric model where the sun is the center of the universe, or at the very least the center of our solar system. For a heliocentric model, retrograde motion is an apparent motion. Mars never actually changes direction in its orbit. Mars is always orbiting in the same direction. It's just there's an apparent motion where it seems to go backwards on the sky based on our vantage point. Our vantage point is changing as we go around the sun, and that explains why Mars appears to go backwards, even though in its orbit, Mars is always going in the same direction. If instead we look at a geocentric model, a model where the Earth is the center of the universe, then retrograde motion becomes real. If the Earth is the center of the universe and the Earth is not moving, the only way to explain Mars going backwards is Mars is actually going backwards. That Mars is moving forward, stops, starts moving backwards, then moves forward again. You really do need to say that the planets have to actually change directions to explain this retrograde motion. Okay. All right, so want to mention another prolific Greek astronomer, Ptolemy. Ptolemy made a number of very important observations, a number of important calculations, and one of the most important things he did was create a detailed mathematical model to predict the location of planets over time, the so-called geocentric model. The model was again based on geocentrism. The Earth was fixed, the Earth was not moving, it was at the center of the universe, everything moved around the Earth. Following Aristotle, Ptolemy was a big believer that everything had to be circles. The heavens are perfect, the circle is the perfect shape, and therefore things in the heavens had to move in a circular way. So everything had to be circles moving at constant speeds. And we'll talk about what this means to have circles within circles in the next slide. Okay, so and again, an important point here. The hypothesis behind this model was wrong. The Earth is not the center of the universe. The Earth does actually move, but the model was complicated enough that it had enough bells and whistles, so to speak, that it was able to make very accurate predictions, certainly accurate enough for the time. The positions of the planets were known to basically, human eye level accuracy, and this model could accurately predict where Mars is going to be 3 years from now, when there's going to be a solar eclipse, where Jupiter will be, 5 years from now. This model can make those accurate predictions, even though it was based on an incorrect hypothesis. Okay. One more point on Ptolemy. So the way he was able to explain these motions, is particularly retrograde motion, was these things called epicycles, which is just a fancy word for circles within circles. So you have this problem where Mars sometimes moves one direction, then it stops, then it moves the other direction, then it stops, and it starts going the other direction, the first direction again. And the way to explain this was circles within circles. So imagine the Earth, center of the universe. Earth doesn't move because it's a geocentric model. You have this big circle of Mars's motion around Earth. And as that big circle turns, Mars appears to move eastward over time. But Mars is actually not on that big circle. It's on a second circle embedded in that big circle. So there's the big circle, and there's the smaller second circle. And then there's Mars on the edge of the second circle. And so as the big circle turns, the small circle turns too. And so occasionally Mars is moving in the same direction as the big circle. And so it appears to be moving in this direction. But a little bit later, Mars is now, this small circle has made a half turn, and now Mars appears to be moving backwards. Mars is moving the opposite direction on this small circle compared to the direction of the big circle. And then half a turn later, Mars is moving in the right direction again. And so from Earth, this would appear to explain retrograde motion. A small circle on top of a big circle, epicycles. Mars is moving eastward, then Mars is moving westward, and then Mars is moving eastward again. And this is a simplified version. Ptolemy's model actually had a lot more complications than this. It had, many circles on top of circles. So sometimes up to 10 circles nested on each other, usually not, perfectly centered circles, a little bit offset from each other. A lot of complicated mathematics required in order to explain this retrograde motion.